Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories, where today, my stepdaughter demands I raise her baby. I, 38 female, married my husband Sam, who's 47, 5 years ago. Sam always knew that I didn't want to have kids of my own. He was fine with it. He has a daughter, Leia, who's 25. His wife passed when Leia was only 10, and I met him when she was 15. I didn't meet her until a year after I started dating him. She was a sweet young adult, and we got along great. I did not move in with Sam until Leia left for college, though. Leia got pregnant last year. Her boyfriend did not want her to keep it, but she wanted to keep it anyway. He broke up with her, and Leia moved back in with us because she couldn't afford her lifestyle without him. She worked as a teacher, and he was the breadwinner. I had concerns about how she was going to raise a kid on a teacher's salary by herself. I suggested getting him to pay child support. She didn't want to, though. Sam thought I should stay out of it. Fine. But once she had the baby about 4 months ago, Leia seemed to realize having a baby is not the sunshine and rainbow she thought it was. She barely got any sleep during the last 4 months. All the while, Sam was helping her with the baby while I did almost all of the chores by myself. Now her leave is ending. She does not want to leave the baby at daycare or with a nanny. Sam and I both work as well. She asked if I could stay home with the baby, and I said no. First, it's not my baby, and I never wanted to raise one. Second, I have work. She asked Sam, who asked me to do it instead. I refused, stating the reasons again. Sam couldn't stay home because he earned more than me and covered more bills. I asked why Leia can't stay home with the baby herself. She said that she's young and she wants to build her career. I said many people take breaks to raise their kids, and she broke down crying about how she was so tired all the time being a mom, and she needed something else in her life too. Sam feels bad for her and thinks we should help her. I suggested she pay for a nanny with her income, but Leia doesn't want strangers looking after her baby. Both of them are pressuring me to stay home with baby so she can go to work. I'm standing firm on my decision. Leia said yesterday how she wished her mom was still alive since she would have had her back. She said I don't love her, and my husband is also mad at me. Am I the jerk for refusing to help my stepdaughter with her baby? Maybe necessary info. Leia's mom was a stay-at-home mom. Not the jerk. She didn't ask you to help. She asked you to pretty much give up your career and raise your step-grandkid. Help would have been if she had said, "Can you see about maybe watching the baby when my school has evening staff meetings?" Or, "Can you and dad work something out on your schedules so the baby spends as little time in daycare?" Many daycare centers also give discounts to teachers because they know how hard they work and how little they get paid. Also, once she knew she was going to keep the baby, that was when she should have started asking her coworkers and friends for childcare recommendations. Explain to her that you are not refusing to help with your granddaughter, but that you need to focus on your career as well, and that you will help her come up with a plan. She needs to find reliable childcare for when she's teaching during the day, and I'm sure someone at the school can help her find that. She needs to get child support from her ex to help pay the costs. It's his kid too, and he can pay child support without having visitation rights. You and your husband should sit down with her and figure out a good childcare option for when she's working. I can 100% guarantee you that her late mother would also agree with this. Also, don't take to heart what she's saying. Postpartum depression can be very difficult to cope with, and I promise she still likes you and is just dealing with a lot right now. Well, what do you think? Should OP quit her job so she can raise her stepdaughter's baby or not? Please let us know. No way, Jose. I'd divorce that guy too. I'm not some sort of live-in babysitter, and you're not gonna try to make me one. Am I the jerk for telling my daughter she's a disappointment? I have 2 daughters who are 23 and 20. They're both so beautiful and smart, and I really love them both. I always wanted them to be strong and independent women who would stand on their own feet, and I try to raise them that way. They were both interested in volleyball. I always supported their interest. My younger is still playing on a team and also studying at a good university. She's really hardworking, and even if she does not succeed in playing professional volleyball, she will definitely have a good job. My older daughter quit both sports and school when she got pregnant at 18. When she first told us that she was pregnant, I was very upset and advised her to not have it because having a baby at such a young age would disrupt her life. She decided to keep it, and my wife supported this decision. To be honest, I was very insistent on her not having it at the time. But when I saw that she remained determined, I dropped the issue and supported her fully, even though I didn't want to. She got married quickly with the baby's father. Then she decided to stay at home and take care of her kid, and her husband started to work. I never wanted my daughter to be financially dependent on her husband, but I never voiced it either. But of course, my daughter knew that I'm bothered by this. Yesterday, we were having dinner with my daughters and my wife. My wife and daughter started talking about being a mother. My wife told her that even though I wanted her to not have it, I love my grandson very much now. My daughter asked me if that was so, and I said, of course I love him. I really love my grandson, but my daughter knew that I was bothered by her situation, so it didn't sound sincere at all. My daughter said I could give an honest answer. I told her that I really do love my grandson, but that I was disappointed that she had become a mother at an early age, had left school and her job, and was now dependent on a man. She didn't argue with me, but the rest of the night was a bit tense. At the end of the night, she went home, and my wife started a fight over what I said. I told her that she was the one who wanted an honest answer, but my wife is sure that I'm a jerk. My younger one agrees with me, but says I was rude to say it out loud. Edit. I'm not sorry that my daughter doesn't live the life I want. I'm sorry that she lives dependent on another person, and I can't say that their marriage is going very well. They chose the sport they wanted to be interested in, the university they wanted to go to, or their hobbies, etc. I didn't force anything on them. All I want is for them to be self-sufficient. I also told my daughter that I would pay for a babysitter if she wanted to go back to school or get a job. Yes, she is only 23 years old and could still have a career, but she's not doing that. Edit. Since yesterday, I've received many comments about what a good father I am and what a terrible father I am. It's okay. I said I would apologize to my daughter, which I did. It was a long conversation, but I don't have the time today, so I can't go into details. Also, no matter how much I go into detail, some people here seem to be very interested in making things up, so it would be a wasted effort. In short, I apologized and explained to her that I'm more worried than disappointed. Thankfully, she understood. I reminded her again that I love her and will always be there for her. Also, my suspicions about their marriage turned out to be correct. They don't have a good marriage. Her husband has suggested therapy, but she doubts it will work. This time, I didn't tell her what to do. I told her that I would support her in whatever she does. I told her that if she wants to go back to school or work, my offer of babysitter still stands, and if she wants more from me, I will always do it. So, I'm still the best father ever. I'm going to give you some serious advice, and I hope you listen to it, OP. I'm the daughter in this situation. I got pregnant when I was 16. Was it a great idea? Absolutely not. But once the decision was made, it was done. Well, my mom was exactly like you, consistently bringing up things like how she thought my life would be different. She was disappointed I became such a young mother. She had such bigger plans for me. It's such a shame I didn't listen to her when she told me not to have it, etc. for years. Well, guess what? Now I'm 37. I'm happy and successful, and my daughter is 21 now, and one of the best people literally on the planet. But guess who I haven't spoken to in 4 years because I got tired of listening to their crap over the years? That's right, my mom. If you value your relationship with your daughter and grandson, it's time to let go of the dreams you had for her life and focus on being a supportive and kind part of the life that she has now. All these "you're the jerk" comments are so unrealistic. I'm going to be downvoted into oblivion, but I don't care. Your kid asked a question, asked for an honest answer, and you gave one. She's 23, not 7. Don't ask a question you don't want an answer to. I'm sorry, but I thought your answer was honest, realistic, and kind. You admitted to being happy with your grandson and loving him, but you can't lie and say that you're necessarily happy with all of your kid's decisions. I'm sorry, but not being ecstatic that your kid has no education or job experience and is completely dependent on their spouse isn't a terrible thing. It's not a dig at stay-at-home moms or motherhood. It's just worry and fear that if anything happens, his kid and his grandkid will have massive financial issues. You didn't say she herself was a disappointment. If you had, I would be going off on you in the comments myself. When she committed to this new life plan, you put your thoughts aside and supported your kid despite your own feelings, which is what parenting is. Parents don't have to be necessarily happy with their kids' choices. They do have to support them though, and you did. Am I the jerk for not inviting any of my siblings to my wedding? So I'm 23, female, getting married in a few months, and I have a few older siblings who are 34, 36, and 38. All of them are now married, and since I was a teen when they got married and they had a child-free wedding, I was not invited to any of their weddings. My oldest sibling first had a child-free wedding, and then the others decided to follow. When my oldest brother got married, I was 10, so sure, I kind of get not inviting me. but I was still extremely upset. My oldest brother got married to a woman I really love, and I couldn't even witness it. The other brother got married when I was 12, so again, sure, I get not inviting a 12-year-old, but I was a very well-behaved kid, and again, his sibling. My sister got married when I was 15. At first, she didn't want a child-free wedding, but all of the family members convinced her because, OMG, it's so refreshing to be in a wedding where kids don't bring havoc. So she decided to cut it off at 16. And when I asked, can I be the one exception since I'm 15 and I'm your sister? She said no with a very serious tone. If we make an exception for you, what about other kids? It's not fair. I got upset and screamed that what's not fair is not participating in any of my siblings' weddings. My parents got upset with me and grounded me. And lastly, my brother got married when I was 17. At that point, I didn't care. I knew there was going to be a child-free wedding and that once again, I'm not invited. I didn't ask or beg. My step-cousin who had just turned 18 made the cut and I didn't. Well, as I said, I didn't care. I sent a quick congrats and that's it. My parents got furious on why I didn't even congratulate them. I just ignored them and spent all the time in my room with my now soon-to-be husband. Since I'm getting married, I decided none of them are going to be there since I wasn't allowed to be in theirs. When they didn't get the invitations, they all came to my house and demanded to know why they didn't get one. I simply explained, you didn't want me in your wedding, I don't want you in mine. I explained how hurt I was that I was not able to see any of my siblings get married and they should experience the same. They said that the weddings had alcohol so they didn't want any young impressionable kids to be there. And I said all I wanted was to be included in the wedding part. I didn't care about the after party. Mom then started screaming about how unfair I am and how she wants all of her kids to be together on that beautiful day. Ironic, but I'm not backing down. I firmly believe in not inviting them. Am I the jerk? Update. We talked the day after I made the post. I said that the only way I'm going to invite them is if they explain absolutely everything. Otherwise, no invitation. After some weird looks and silence, the truth came out. I'm their cousin. My father's brother was raising me alone, and he passed, so I was raised by my uncle. They do not know who my mother is. I was young, required a lot of attention, wasn't their sibling, so they kind of distanced themselves from me. My brother said that he even hated me sometimes. My parents sat there ashamed for never telling me. My cousin just looked awkward. I left. And we eloped. So after all the drama, we talked and realized we were doing the whole wedding thing because we thought the others wanted it. We're not against the idea of a flashy wedding, but calm day with just the closest people were closest to our hearts. So we did just that. Just us and some of our friends. We're keeping the money for our dream country to visit. My parents had the audacity to get angry that there was no celebration, but I don't care to be honest. It was a day for us. That's it. I hope the update was not disappointing. Am I the jerk for telling my mom I'm never coming back? I'm 16, female. My mom and dad are divorced. My mom has remarried and has 3 stepkids, while my dad is still single and I live with him. I see my mom on some weekends, but I don't spend the night at her house because I like to spend the weekend with my friends. So I spent the summer with my mom. I didn't want to, but she's been telling me how she misses me and how she's going to make sure I have a good time. I said yes because she is my mom. Plus, she had been practically begging, making it hard for me to say no. The whole time I was at her house, I just wanted to go home. Instead of everyone washing their own plate, we all take rotations, so I'm left washing like 15 plates every other day because they serve food family style and there are so many chores. My mom didn't even let me meet friends all that much, and there was constant noise while at my dad's house. He makes me food and I wash the plates for the 2 of us. He allowed me to bring friends over, and me and him clean the house together. But since we are 2 people, the house is never that dirty to begin with. My dad let me talk to him informally. If I asked my mom, what up, her husband would go into a rant about how I shouldn't talk to her like that, and I was left babysitting a lot there. Me and my dad go out to eat every Sunday, like we go to a nice restaurant and try different cuisine. While here and we go out to eat, we all have to beg my mom and her husband. And if I'm feeling sad, my dad always takes me for a walk or to go get some food. If I'm sad here, nobody notices it, like I'm not even seen here. I just miss my dad and I never want to return here. My mom is sad I'm leaving and said we should do it again for every holiday. My dad is picking me up today because I start school on Wednesday. and I said that I was never coming back here and I went to pack all of my things. My mom's husband decided to come and give me a speech about how I shouldn't say stuff like this, and this just made me not want to come back here again, because why does she always report me to her husband when I told her that in private? I told my dad what I said, and he said I don't have to come back if I don't want to, but my response was a bit harsh. Was I the jerk? Edit. I'm not cutting off my mom. I meant I'm never sleeping at her house ever again. I said it harshly because I wanted her to know there was no room for debate. I didn't want to spend summer here, but she kept pressuring me to come and making me feel guilty because I don't live with her. I wanted her to know straight off the bat that I'm not repeating this experience. Update. Me and my mom still aren't close. I made it clear to her that I'm never visiting her home and that I still hope we could hang out outside of her home because I didn't like the way I was being treated. And she said okay, but proceeded to say that it's not my fault my dad spoiled me, but she will respect my decision. But I've been calling and texting her every week to hang out, but she always declines. I think she's holding a grudge, but if she doesn't want to put in any effort into our relationship, neither will I. This is just how she is. She says she's not angry, but does passive-aggressive stuff. Anyway, I asked my mom, or more like begged her, and I got a sleepover with her husband's daughter, Amy. Me and Amy have been begging for it for like 2 weeks. So she came to my house and we had a lot of fun. Her dad didn't give her any money, so my dad bought her a couple of things and some food from the food court. And in my house, I have like 3 big trash bags full of clothes that I was going to let my cousins go through because some of my cousins gave me their clothes. So it's a thing in my family where we give each other clothes that are too small or that we're not going to wear anymore. I was going to give them away, but when Amy saw the clothes and I told her I was giving them away, she asked if she could have some. So me and her went through Pinterest and I dressed her up with style and packed the clothes she liked in a big bag for her to take home. It didn't really occur to me that this would cause issues, but when my mom picked her up Sunday, she didn't have any problems. She said that it was nice that I gave her clothes, but later that evening, her husband called my dad and was yapping about how we gave his daughter our old clothes and started saying that we looked down on them. It caused so much drama. This morning he came and dropped off the stuff that my dad had bought for her and the trash bag of clothes that I had given her. I texted her and told her I would give her back the stuff on Tuesday because her school is like a 10-minute bus ride from mine, but I'm not sure if we're going to be allowed to hang out again. Edit. I wrote this around Labor Day because it happened on Labor Day. I visited her at her school and I gave her stuff. I would have given her the clothes too, but she can't hide that amount of clothes in her bag. Am I the jerk for telling my girlfriend to stop being a jerk and apologize? So I, 25 male, and my girlfriend, 25 female, let's call her Alex, have been together for 3 years. A few days ago it was her brother, George's, wedding and we attended. Us and a few of our friends were at the same table later at the venue. Turns out my girlfriend's half-sister, who's 26, let's call her Rachel, was invited and was assigned at the same table as me and my girlfriend. I have to note that Rachel is my mother-in-law's daughter. She had right before she had Alex, and then completely abandoned Rachel with her dad to live her life with Alex's dad. They hadn't found out about Rachel's existence until her mother-in-law confessed to George that she had a daughter before them. So George reached out and found Rachel, and she was happy to maintain a relationship with them. But Alex was completely against it and didn't even want to meet her. That's why Rachel and Alex don't get along. That was 4 years back. I also have to say that I've met Rachel and we get along well. Since Rachel didn't know anyone else at the wedding, George put her at the same table as me and Alex and our friends. The second Alex saw her, her mood changed. She kept throwing little innocent insults at her and then said she was just joking. Rachel didn't seem to mind until Alex said, "So, Rachel, how's your dad?" I almost lost it then. Rachel's dad passed when she was 15 and everyone knew. Rachel didn't say anything, but just looked at her with an almost pitiful look. She then excused herself and went to go get a drink. I turned to Alex and tell her that if she doesn't stop being a jerk and apologize, I'll leave her right then and there. Alex got defensive, saying that I'm defending Rachel because I'm attracted to her and that I want to give her a pity hookup because she's a poor orphan. She said all of that in front of everyone. I ignored her for the rest of the night, and when it was time to leave, I left her at home and went to sleep at my house. Am I the jerk? Update. I hadn't talked to Alex much after the wedding because I was still very mad for her behavior. I stayed at my house and avoided her calls and attempts to contact me in any way. She came to my house twice, but I didn't answer the door. I wanted to think, and I made the post yesterday because I had started doubting if I was right. I now realize I am. I went to her house this morning and asked her to talk. She started apologizing to me for what she had said, but I told her I'm not the one she should be apologizing to. She realized what I meant and stopped talking. I kept going, and I told her that it's over between us and to never call me again. She started freaking out and said that she would apologize to Rachel if it meant I didn't break up with her. I agreed, knowing that I would leave her even if she apologized, because she's only doing it so I'll stay. Still, I wanted to hear her apologizing because it was fair for Rachel. She called Rachel right then and there, and after a while, Rachel picked up. Alex started telling her how sorry she is for what she said, and that it had been eating her up for the past few days and she can't sleep, etc. Lies. And from what I saw, Rachel knew she was lying. I don't think Rachel even cared to hear an apology since she said a simple, "Okay," and hung up. Alex turns to me and asks, "Are you happy now?" I wasn't, and I told her. I turn to leave and tell her that I'll come pick up my stuff while she's at work. She starts freaking out and screaming at me how I tricked her into apologizing to a jerk and that it's not her fault her mother went around making mistakes before she had her, and how there's a reason Rachel was left by her mother. At that moment, I knew that whoever was in front of me isn't the same person I fell in love with. I just left. She's been calling me for hours now, but I blocked her. Rachel called too to ask if I'm still alive since she learned from George that I broke up with Alex. I told her that it's good riddance and I apologized again for the wedding incident. She once again told me that it's not my fault, so I don't have to apologize. So that's it. I'm quite happy to be honest, and it's not like I'll miss the toxicity. My Karen ex is demanding my Disney Plus password. I know my ex-wife has been using my Netflix account for many years. I didn't really mind. I'm now remarried, we have a kid, and I live far away. I basically have no contact with my ex, though I still do regularly stay in touch with several of her siblings and her father. When I signed up for Hulu and Disney Plus, I reused my Netflix password. Turns out my ex was using those services as well. I signed up to those after we were divorced. I got a notification that another password was breached and decided to begin using a password manager to make new passwords for everything. I'm also turning on two-factor authentication anywhere I can. My ex just texted me and asked for the new password. Her kid, from her subsequent marriage, really wants to watch something on Disney tonight. I've not responded, but my plan is to say no. I'm certain she'll make a production of this and complain to her family members and our mutual friends about how I'm somehow in the wrong, but I don't really care anymore. I'm not being a jerk though, am I? She's a grown adult. She can sign up for her own account. You're the jerk. It's a darn streaming service. Just share the password and get off your high horse. You obviously have the money to pay for it, and maybe she doesn't. Have you even considered that? This is also a way to stick it to these big corporations. You literally have the chance to get back at these greedy clowns, but because you can't get over your feelings for your ex, you choose to be bitter about something that happened years ago. If I were you, I'd call her up and apologize for how selfish you've been. I'll never understand how men like you can be so greedy. You remind me of my sorry excuse of a father I had growing up. He wouldn't share anything with anyone. His snacks, pops, magazines, stamps, we weren't allowed to touch any of his stuff. Long story short, once my father was so old he couldn't take care of himself any longer, he got into a low-income assisted living facility. We finally had the chance to take all of his stuff that we always wanted. I even live in the old man's house now, and once he bites the dust, it will be put in my name. Whether he likes it or not, power of attorney is all that matters, and that belongs to my big brother. Sorry, Dad. Looks like we got the last laugh. I even burned his entire stamp collection in the backyard, and I sent him a video of it. Haven't seen the old geezer smile since. Congrats! You have more issues than Windows 10. Well, what do you think? Should OP give his new password to his ex or not? Please let us know. Never share your passwords with anyone, especially your ex. Am I the jerk for stealing a name from my sister to use for my baby? I, 25 female, had a couple names picked out since I found out I was pregnant. Mindy if it's a girl and Derek if it's a boy. However, in my last few weeks of pregnancy, I added another name to the list for a boy, Morgan. My sister, who's 28, and I have had a close relationship for a long time, so I let her know that I had another name I was considering for a boy. And when I told her, she was shocked, saying that Morgan is the name she wanted if she ever got pregnant with a boy. She has fertility issues, so it would be a while before she got pregnant, if at all. She pleaded with me to not use that name because it was a family name on her husband's side of the family and asked me to use the name I had originally chosen for a boy, and I told her that because she's not pregnant and might not be able to even have kids, then it wouldn't matter if I chose that name or not, and she got upset by this. A few weeks passed and I was past my due date, so I was scheduled for a C-section in a few days. After I told her this, she again asked me to please not use that name, and I told her that I wasn't sure what name I was going to pick yet, but my husband and I had already decided we would be using that name. After I gave birth, my husband and I named our son Morgan, but I didn't tell my sister because I knew she would get upset. This was my baby, and I shouldn't have to give up the name I want for the slight chance she could maybe one day get pregnant. She messaged me to congratulate me on the delivery and asked what the name was. I told her we still hadn't decided what name, so I could avoid drama as I had just given birth. My mom called her the next day to tell her about the baby and mentioned the name to her before I could tell her, and of course she got upset. She messaged me asking why I didn't tell her that we chose that name, and why did she have to find out from Mom. I told her that it was what my husband and I decided, and it has nothing to do with her, so I didn't see the point in telling her when I knew what her reaction would be. Her husband was devastated, and so was she, and now we barely talk, at least not like we used to. I told her she needs to get over it, because I was the one who was pregnant, not her. She's being really immature about it by not talking to me and getting this upset over a name. Our relationship isn't the same now, and she says it's my fault. So, am I the jerk? Edit to answer some questions. I only found out that it was a family name after my husband and I had decided on it. I wasn't trying to throw her infertility in her face. I was just trying to get her to be reasonable and see that I'm the one who was pregnant at that time, so she shouldn't get a say on what I do or don't name my baby. I didn't choose the name to hurt her or to be spiteful. I just really like the name. She still talks to me because we are family. She was my maid of honor after all of this happened, so I think she's moved past it. Or at the very least, she doesn't bring it up anymore. She doesn't seem very attached to my son, but she's very involved with my other sister's kids, which hurts, but is ultimately her choice whether or not she wants a good relationship with my son or not. I don't think that's up to me at all. Also, I won't be changing his name, and I don't think I should have to. She's decided not to name any potential kids she has Morgan because it doesn't sit right with her to use the name after I did, and I think it would be weird to have two kids with the same name, so I agree with her on that. But she won't tell anyone the new names that she has picked now anyway. You're the jerk. This line makes you the jerk. I told her that because she's not pregnant and might not be able to have kids, that it wouldn't matter if I chose that name or not. It begs the question, did you choose the name Morgan to rub your sister's infertility in her face? Summed up my thoughts perfectly. Using the name was also a bit iffy given the sister's explanation, but possibly forgivable on its own. Then add in all the other details, and it's clear that OP is the jerk. Yeah, I don't think picking that name makes OP the jerk. It's everything else in this post, from the lack of empathy to the way that it was handled. There's something just evil about the way it was written too. Just so insidious and matter-of-factly, without a care in the world or any kind of concern or kindness or empathy. It is pretty horrifying. I couldn't do this to my high school bully, let alone my sister. You're the jerk. If you were as close to your sister as you claim, you'd understand that this name was important to her and her husband. You're also throwing her infertility in her face and acting like the chance of her having kids are slim to none. She could adopt the baby too and name that kid as well. That's crappy. The state of the relationship is your fault. Normally, I'm all for people naming their kid what they want to, but it sounds like you're purposely adding salt to the wound. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her sister? Please let us know.
If the story had been written a little differently, they would all be siding with OP, saying that her sister has no right to decide what she names her own kid.
I made my parents homeless for getting rid of my dog. I, female 27, lived with my parents until last week. I have a dog that I love. She's been my best friend since I graduated university. I'm not very social, and I prefer her company to most people I know. I have had boyfriends and even a short relationship that ended amicably. I'm just not really interested in much beyond my work and my dog. My parents think that this is a shortcoming, but I do not. My brother also lives with us. He's in high school and he doesn't pay rent. I pay about 50% of everything in the house, including groceries. It's about the same as rent would cost, and I get the basement suite. It isn't a legal suite in the sense that it could be rented, but it is fine for a family member. It's because of building codes and stuff. It would cost a bunch of money to make it suitable for a renter. So my mom decided that the reason I'm not actively looking for a husband is because my dog takes too much of my attention. My pup has some health problems, but nothing I can't afford, and nothing that affects her quality of life. So my mom gave her away while I was at work. I came home and she was gone, along with all of her stuff, her toys, her leash, everything. I lost it on my mom. I told her that if she didn't tell me where my dog was, I was calling the cops and saying that they had stolen my dog and having her charged. I went to the place where my dog was and I got my dog back. I then went back to my parents' house and packed all of my stuff that was important to me and went to a friend's house. My dad has been calling and texting me, asking about money for October. I told him he should have thought about that when he allowed a crazy person to steal from me. Since my dad lost his job because of the current world disease, they cannot afford all of the household bills without my help. My dad says that they will be out of money in 3 months without me. I don't trust them anymore. My family thinks I'm a jerk for caring more about my dog than I do about them. To answer some questions I know that will come up, yes, I am on the spectrum. I may also lean towards ace, even though I have enjoyed things with guys before. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. They can move into the basement and rent out the room upstairs. OP. Nice. I will suggest that to my father. It's important for you to understand that you are not here to negotiate with them. This isn't you trying to get their approval to get out. You're already out. They're not your responsibility. Your tone should convey this clearly. You are the wronged party. You stole from me. It isn't my job to figure out your problems that you create. You can try to get a roommate or rent out the basement, but this is your mess, and you two are old enough to solve your own problems. You're lucky that I haven't pressed charges. If you continue to harass me, continue to behave poorly, that will change. I have no problem with letting law enforcement decide who's right and who's a criminal. Any more missing property of mine will be met with additional charges. If you have a lawyer friend, maybe have them type up a formal-sounding letter if they don't stop. Also get some friends to go with you to move your stuff out. Warn your brother of them possibly trying to guilt him for rent, steal his future income, or using credit cards in his name to pay off their financial obligations and messing up his credit score. Make sure he secures his social and all relevant future financial documents and accounts, as should you. Am I the jerk for refusing my coworker's apology and being nasty back? I have ADHD and autism. I've been with my job for 12 years. In July of 2021, the company hired 4 new people, Tom, Jamie, Alana, and Deanna, fake names, to make the team that I work on. Unfortunately, none of the new people on my team are very nice to me because I'm odd. The only person who is ever kind to me is the new manager of our team. The new people started holding potluck meals. The first time I found out after the fact, while they were eating without me. I asked them to let me know next time and I would bake something. The second time it happened, they said it was an oversight. Oops. By the third time, I got the hint. I wasn't welcome. I was hurt, but I let it go and I just did my job. Our new manager asked why I never participate in the team potluck. I told her the truth. I'm never invited, but she swore that Alana texted me. I told her that none of them had ever contacted me except for essentials by email only, and they make a point to avoid me. When my manager confronted the group, they lied and swore they had asked me, but were unable to produce the promised text. My manager and boss decided to no longer permit potlucks on company property. The next day, they cornered me in the break room when I went to eat lunch and began to shout at me for ruining their lunches. I ended up having a meltdown. I told them I didn't ask our manager to do anything about it, that our manager said they called it a team lunch, that I was part of the team too, and she was bothered that I was excluded and took it upon herself to do something about it. I said that I knew I was weird, and that was why they didn't like me. I told them that I'm doing my best I can to fit in, but I'm not stupid. I know I'm always being left out on purpose and lied to and about, and that it hurts to never feel like I fit in no matter what. By the end, I was sobbing myself sick, and my mom had to come pick me up early because I was panicking so badly. I found out later my coworkers were put on administrative leave without pay and forced to go to sensitivity training before they could come back to work. A few days later, Tom approached me to apologize and said his nephew was autistic too and he should have realized and done better. I asked him, if someone treated your nephew the way you treated me for over a year and only apologized after getting caught and punished for it, what would you tell your nephew to do? Would you tell him to accept that apology? He quietly admitted that he wouldn't, that he'd tell his nephew to tell them to go buzz off. I told him to go tell himself that. Get back to work and leave me alone. No one else even tried after that. My manager is now saying I overreacted and I should just accept the apology and give them another chance to keep the peace. My job coach says I should apologize too, but I really don't want to. Am I the jerk? A year? And your manager is saying you're overreacting? They're underreacting. Sensitivity training isn't enough. Your coworkers did this with intent for over a year and then had the audacity to shout at you when their crappy behavior was called out. My own anger at your treatment aside, I would accept the apology in time. I do think that what you said to Tom was perfect. You are 100% not the jerk. Exactly. OP didn't reject the apology directly, just put a mirror up to it. Let them invite OP out the next time and show that they mean it with kindness instead. Not the jerk, OP. Tell them it's not that you're rejecting Tom's apology, you just prefer to see it in changed behavior before you can accept it wholeheartedly. Your company can accept that as both professional and reasonable, as well as your colleagues. You don't owe anyone an apology. Never. Not for this. And please note that others didn't bother. Don't assume it's because of what Tom said. Why are they even talking about it? They should each approach you anyway and apologize. You have the right to respond, and they the duty to at least hear it. I'm so sorry you went through that. Kudos on your resilience and standing up for yourself. I hope you see it now too. It wasn't just a meltdown. Fingers crossed they change. Accepting an apology is a personal choice, not something that should be subject to a superior's order. For that alone, I have to say, not the jerk. I think you need to ask yourself if Tom's apology was sincere, and if it would benefit you to offer forgiveness. Forgiveness is not for him, it's for you. When you've thought about it, do what feels right to you. Based on what you've written, none of the other 3 people have apologized, so there's nothing to accept. I'm not sure what you would be apologizing for. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard.
Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.